In this video we will talk about the abdominal aorta. We have studied up till now that this is heart, these are aortic arches. Now, the vitelline circulation is the flow of blood between the embryo and the yolk sac through a collection of vitelline arteries and veins that pass within the yolk sac. This is dorsal aorta. This is placenta. The umbilical circulation is the flow of blood between the chorion of the placenta and the embryo. The umbilical arteries carry poorly oxygenated blood to the placenta, and the veins carry highly oxygenated blood initially to the heart of the embryo. Class, do not focus on venous system. In this video we will only focus on arterial supply of the embryo. And we have studied thoracic aorta up till now. So, focus on umbilical arteries and vitelline arteries only. These arteries and their extensions will be discussed in this video on abdominal aorta. Now, let's just focus on aorta. We have discussed the thoracic aorta. So, let's revise main points. This is ascending aorta. This is aortic arch. This is right carotid artery. This is left carotid artery. This is left subclavian artery. This is right subclavian artery. This is diaphragm. Now, in this video we will mainly focus on abdominal aorta. So, let's study abdominal aorta in detail. These are dorsal lateral branches. These are lateral branches. These are vitelline arteries. And these are umbilical arteries. These dorsal lateral branches give rise to intercostal arteries and lumbar arteries. Now class, what are the intercostal arteries?
Sir, the intercostal arteries are a group of arteries that supply the area between the ribs, called the intercostal space.
And class, what are the lumbar arteries?
Sir, the main function of the lumbar arteries is to provide the blood supply for the lumbar segments of the spinal cord and posterior abdominal wall.
Yes, class. In next, lateral branches give rise to adrenal arteries. That supplies blood to adrenal gland. Lateral branches also give rise to renal artery. That supplies blood to kidneys. Lateral branches also give rise to gonadal arteries. That supplies blood to gonads. Now, let's talk about the vitelline arteries and umbilical arteries. The vitelline circulation is the flow of blood between the embryo and the yolk sac through a collection of vitelline arteries and veins that pass within the yolk sac. That has been already discussed. But we don't need yolk sac as an adult.
Sir, I have seen location of vitelline arteries in overall picture of embryo. According to location of vitelline arteries, it must supply blood to our gut.
Yes, you are right. Vitelline arteries, branches of the aorta that supply the gut. 3 branches of vitelline arteries are celiac trunk, that supplies the foregut, superior mesenteric artery, that supplies the midgut, and inferior mesenteric artery, that supplies the hindgut. Now, next are umbilical arteries. Umbilical arteries descend. They give off common iliac arteries, which further gives of external iliac arteries and internal iliac arteries. So, this was all about the arterial system of embryo. But before ending this video, any 3 students who could summarize all we have discussed up till now?
Yes, sir. This is the heart tube. And this is the aortic sac. And this is the dorsal aorta. Now we are going to discuss the structure that we can see after cross-section of this heart tube. At this point, that's the aortic sac. So, after the cross-section, and we know that this is ectoderm. This is endoderm. This is truncus arteriosus. This is the aortic sac. This is dorsal aorta. This is neural tube. This is notochord. These are pharyngeal arcs. Blood vessels arise from aortic sac through vasculogenesis as its new blood vessel. Now, these blood vessels move from the aortic sac to pharyngeal arches, and then forming a connection with the dorsal aorta. So, this whole network of blood vessels are called as aortic arch. I repeat, sir. Blood vessels arise from aortic sac through vasculogenesis as its new blood vessel. Now, these blood vessels move from the aortic sac to pharyngeal arches, and then forming a connection with the dorsal aorta. So, this whole network of blood vessels are called as aortic arch. Now, if we move this structure out, this will be the structure. This is aortic sac. This is dorsal aorta. And these are aortic arches. And this is descending aorta.
Let's revise the mnemonic we discussed for the fate of each of the aortic arch. So, this is dorsal aorta. This is ventral aorta. This is first arch. This is second arch. This is third arch. This is fourth arch. This is fifth arch. That will degenerate, so shown as dotted line. And this is sixth arch. Now, let's memorize the fate of aortic arches using different mnemonics. As we know that aortic arch 1 becomes maxillary artery. So, first is max. Max for maxillary. I repeat. First is max. Max for maxillary. And we also know that aortic arch 2 becomes stapedial artery. So, second is stapedial. Moving to next mnemonic. So, mnemonic for third arch is, we know that aortic arch 3 becomes common carotid artery and proximal part of the internal carotid artery. We are talking about third aortic arch. So, C is the third letter of the alphabet. C for carotid. Now, moving to the next mnemonic. For fourth aortic arch. We know that aortic arch 4 of right side becomes the right subclavian artery. Aortic arch 4 of left side becomes aortic arch. So, mnemonic for fourth arch are 4 and 4s. 4 rhymes with or for aorta, while R in 4s. For right. And S in 4s. For subclavian. Moving to the next mnemonic, for 6th aortic arch. And we know that aortic arch 6 of right side gives right pulmonary artery, and aortic arch 6 of left side gives left pulmonary artery and ductus arteriosus. Well, this is lame. But the digit 6 looks like lungs to me. So, right pulmonary artery and left pulmonary artery. And digit 6 looks like small d to me. So, ductus arteriosus.
Sir, I will revise abdominal aorta. These are dorsal lateral branches. These are lateral branches. These are vitelline arteries. These are umbilical arteries. These dorsal lateral branches give rise to intercostal arteries and lumbar arteries. In next, lateral branches give rise to adrenal arteries that supply blood to adrenal gland, renal artery that supply blood to kidneys, and gonadal arteries that supply blood to gonads. Now, let's talk about the vitelline arteries and umbilical arteries. Vitelline arteries, branches of the aorta that supply the gut. Branches of vitelline artery are celiac trunk that supplies the foregut, superior mesenteric artery that supplies the midgut, and inferior mesenteric artery that supplies the hindgut. Now next are umbilical arteries. Umbilical arteries descend. They give off common iliac arteries, which further gives of external iliac arteries and internal iliac arteries.
That concludes our discussion for today. I hope you found the information on arterial system of embryo informative and enjoyable. If you have any further questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. And don't forget to stay tuned to sqadia.com for more engaging medical videos.
Watch our medical videos anytime and anywhere. Download sqadia.com app now.